Okay guys, so for this video, I'll show you some of the technical sides of inserting and manipulating type in Adobe Illustrator. Alright, so let's start and look at this here. Okay. I'm just going to put this down here for now. So I got a couple fonts here, or a couple different words I'm working with here. For the most part, I find it easier to insert type. So here's my type tool. It's to draw a box with that type tool. You can just click and start typing, but I like it better when you're working with this certain font or type inside of a box. Okay, so that's what I'll do. I'll just draw that box and start typing whatever I need to type. And I will usually separate blocks of text, so a title, a name, so I can manipulate the sizes and colors and things of them individually. Alright, so this one here is just my name. So I have this, and I want to adjust just the general adjusting of fonts and things like that. So once you switch to your type tool and select a font, this character little button here should pop up, and you should have your options for sizes and different types of font up here along the top. Okay, so this is just choosing all these different fonts. If you ever download a font, it should, and you install it, it should pop up in here automatically. Again, this is changing the size. And remember, when you're choosing a typeface, you want one that has a whole bunch of different options. So this is one I found for a nice sans serif typeface called Roboto. And it has a whole bunch of different options for thin, thin italic, light, light italic. Here's the regular one, italic, medium. So if you have ones that have a bunch of different options for weights and italics, that is going to be a better font to choose, so you can contrast them and use a variety in different sorts of layouts that you're working with. Okay. So we'll go back to this. This character panel, you can click it and make changes on it here. And sometimes it disappears. If you want to keep it out, go to Window, Type, Character. So then you can have this character panel, and you can drag it out if you know you're going to be using it often. Okay. So this has all the basic things you'll need to do in there. There's a few other things in here, but you probably won't need to mess with too many of these. All right. So what you can do here, again, this is the size. That will change. This is the spacing between lines. It's called the leading here. This automatically changes, as you can see, as I change my type. So the space between the lines will automatically change for the size of the font that you want. Okay. Now here are a couple of different things. So tracking is just the overall spacing between characters, and the kerning is the individual spacing between characters. Tracking can be a nice thing to do. Sometimes it can be interesting to stretch something out just based on your spacing. So maybe you have your overall name of your company more spaced out and drawn out, and then you have another aspect as squished together a little bit more. So be careful, you don't want to overly stretch it or overly squish it too much, but it can be a nice thing to do to kind of get some contrast. So maybe I'll have that one stretch out, then make this thin one just a little bit smaller. So then I have some nice contrast there in my typefaces. Okay. Sometimes you may need to adjust the kerning. So especially with fonts that you download, you need to make sure that the spacing of the type is okay and it's making it readable. So this is a font I downloaded called Bada Boom. I use it for some comic book sound effects and things like that. But it can have trouble with this spacing. So right now, some of these letters are just a little bit too close. So let's go ahead and increase the overall spacing between the letters. So the tracking, we're just making that a little bit thicker here. And then you can notice too between individual letters, that's called the kerning. So sometimes you might need to adjust individual letters, especially with these more unique display fonts or more unusual fonts. You will want to check to make sure those are working. So this will adjust your kerning. So you just put your cursor. So as I'm making this a little wider to spread it out, now I'm looking at the word big, and the space between the B and the I and the G is looking like just a little bit too much. So this is where I will adjust the kerning between individual letters. So that's kind of on you to look at that font and make sure that everything is lining up okay. Occasionally you'll need to just increase or decrease the distance between individual letters just slightly to help with the readability of certain fonts. So I'm going to decrease the space between that I and the G. Same with between the B and the I. So that looks a little bit better there. Okay, so again, you can adjust the overall, all the letters, how they're spread out, or the kerning, which is just in between those individual letters. Okay. So again, and then to change colors, you can just highlight your text and select a color there, and that should work pretty well for changing that colors. In the next video, I'll show you guys how to adjust the how to change your text to a shape so you can adjust, add a stroke to it and change the color as well for the fill.